Hello, welcome to another episode of the Horror Vision Horror Podcast. My name is Sean,
I'm Ray.
and we're going to do a quick review of a movie that is not out yet. And this is something that we got a screener from Strike Media. The good people of Strike Media sent this our way. And this movie is coming soon. It's playing festivals now. It is called The Moor. It is directed by Chris Cronin, written by Paul Thomas. Ray, I don't really think so. We're not going to go spoilers at all because
No
nobody's
spoilers at
seen
all.
this. But I really think, especially if people like folk horror, it's not a folk horror movie, but folk horror, I think, lends itself to a certain temperament for watching slow burn films.
I think it's
And
close. I'd say it's very close. Yeah. Slow burn's a very good way to put it. I think after I finished watching it, I texted you while I was watching it. Like, atmosphere is the name of the game in this film.
yeah,
Like, it's
100%.
it's it sets a tone and it maintains it throughout. Like, it's very
Yes,
well. It's done with these long shots and very beautiful long shots. Like, the camera
yes,
work is great. But these beautiful long shots of the English Moors and the music that is used in the film, and the cuts. Like, the editing is great. Like, it does these cuts where it'll just the music will amp up and then it focuses on like a chair and then cuts right away and they're somewhere else. And it's a little bit jarring, but it's honestly like it works because it makes the film not overly slow and lethargic. Like, it keeps up
yes,
its energy
yes.
that way.
I
Um,
agree, and I'm glad you brought that up because I feel like sometimes I'm in a case like this, I'm reticent to say slow burn because that can have a certain connotation of lethargy, and this film is not lethargic. But what it does do, it's an atmosphere, man, like you said. And like, first of
yeah.
all, I want to know, like, I think everybody involved was fantastic. The whole cast, writer, director, editor, camera, everything, score. Who's the location scout? Because give that person a motherfucking raise. Holy shit. I mean, man, and the, cinematographer Sam Cronin. I'm not sure if they're related. If Chris Cronin and Sam Cronin are related, it's probably a safe bet, but you never know. But he, my God, Sam Cronin is able to capture the beauty and then juxtapose it with the eerie otherworldness of this is basically like it, like northern English Moors, and they go on forever. And so one of the things is like 30 years after a child abduction, like 30 years after a child abduction, the father is still looking for his missing son, and his missing son's friend is there helping him because they've just never gotten over it, and he's employing some people that use some kind of non-traditional methods to try and locate the child. And it's just a lot of time on the moors. And it's unbelievable. It's creepy as fuck and it's gorgeous.
Yeah, yeah. Just to add to that, because I was curious as I was watching the film, and there's that scene um where she is talking to that other older man, and I didn't know, is
Mm-hmm.
that supposed to be her father or just
I
a
was
someone
unclear
that she
about
knew?
the relationship there. I wasn't sure if it was her
Okay,
father or if it was another person like from the neighborhood. I think it was her father
okay.
though.
But I was actually curious because she shows the small map, and he's like, so that's what he's going to cover. And she's like, yeah, why? What do you mean? And he's like, well, because this is the Moors. And he starts pulling out these
Yeah.
pieces of paper, and it literally almost covers the entire floor. And I got curious, and I actually looked up how big the Moors are in England. And from uh, facts and figures, newyorkmoors.org.uk, 550 554 square miles, or 1,436 square kilometers, and has 26 miles of coastland.
Holy
So
shit.
that's a fucking huge area.
Holy
That's a
shit.
lot of fuck. Yeah, that's a lot of space. Like, that's like, that's like, someone being like kidnapped or disappearing, and then you get told like, oh well, they disappeared in like somewhere like Yosemite, and you're like,
Yeah,
oh, we're gonna go
right.
find a
Yeah,
guy in
basically.
fucking Yosemite. And like, yes, it is mostly just this grassland or moss, but from what we see in the film, it is treacherous to walk through because they have these like moss pits and like these bogs where you can just fall in and get caught in the mud.
Yeah.
And it's it always seems to be very foggy and craggy, and you're like, damn. And like, that was one thing that I was really struck by as I was watching it. Like, I think the people involved in this, at least the writer and probably the director too, like had a very much of an understanding of like how spooky the Moors are. And I was really appreciating that they conveyed how like the feeling that they got as the people from that country, like knowing that area and like being like, this is a spooky place. Like, people don't go here. Like, and honestly, it reminded me of like things that I'd read in high school, and I was sitting there watching it, thinking to myself, they gotta get this guy to like film a version of Wuthering Heights, because if he the
Yeah.
whole the whole like walking through the moors and the fog and the gothic atmosphere, and like even like some works of Poe, that guy could dial in because he's perfect. The film has a certain like gothic element to it, like, and just the spooky sheep and the rock
Oh, yeah.
elements.
Yes.
It honestly reminded me of, although it moves better and tonally. So if you're someone out there listening and you like this movie that I'm about to mention, Innis Men, then you'll dig this, because Ennis Men is a lot slower and a lot more moody and atmospheric. I mean, it's just as atmospheric, but it's a lot more moody, and it's a lot more like, it takes a while. It takes its time, whereas this does take its time, but it does it so in a better pace.
Okay.
But if you like that film and you're like, oh, I dig this, I want to see something else like this. This is for you.
It seems like maybe this
This will
is
be
the
right up
more
your alley.
commercial version. And this isn't but this is the more accessible version of
Yeah.
Ennis Men, maybe.
Yes.
You know
Yes.
what I
I'd
mean?
say
Like it,
accessible because I don't. I understand exactly what you were going for. I wouldn't say this is commercial because I don't think I could
no,
just throw this in front of anybody who's like
no. But accessible is actually the word I was looking for. I just came up short at first.
a
But
non like B-side deep cut horror fan. Like anyone,
yeah.
like a normal person would probably be like, is anything gonna happen? Like, yeah, just keep watching. Like,
Yeah.
okay,
And that's the other thing is
like,
for a large part of the movie, it's like, and not that it has to be horror, right? But I'm like, okay, so this is like a thriller, like a suspense, but it is and it's not. There's definite horror for sure. I mean, you're not going to get a
yeah,
chainsaw wielding maniac in gallons of blood, but there's a couple images and some moments that were really tense and horrific in like a
yeah.
really, almost the original Blair Witch comes to mind a little bit, or like The Witch, the
Yes,
David Eggers, that
absolutely, absolutely. Yes, that's a great way to think about it.
using nature horrifically.
I think some of the elements of The Witch. I think Blair Witch is a great comparison. Um, It also springs to mind, and it might be because I just saw these recently, but also because of the ambiguity of them. I just recently saw the Schoenberg films. We're all going to the World's
Oh,
Fair, and I saw the TV Glow, and both of those films have a strong ambiguity about them, about whether what's happening to the characters is actually happening, and if it's them experiencing things, or if it's simply them playing through like a kind of psychosis.
right.
And a lot of this film, like, you're sitting there wondering like whether it's something that they're seeing, something they're feeling, because there's that whole scene before they go and consult with the man and his daughter, who seems to be like a psychic medium, that it's just her on the moor with the father and the scout, and
Yeah.
they're walking and they're just trying to walk back to the car, or she gets lost and separated from them, and she starts to hear like weird noises and stuff like that, and it becomes a thing of like, is she hearing those things or is it her
Yeah.
mind playing with her? Because you put people in a situation where they're scared and in a place they don't know, and open areas can cause that thing. They
Oh
can
yes,
cause that kind of
100%.
like thing where people just hear weird shit and they're like, I swear I heard a little kid laughing, or I heard this. And it's just the mind plays tricks. At night you turn off all the lights and you start to hear creaks and crackles and things like that, and like
Yeah.
you swear you heard a footstep outside, and like no you didn't, or like maybe you did, but it could all be your mind like playing with you and a little bit of psychosis. And plus these characters, I mean, the woman and the father, I mean, they're both like, they have delayed their trauma as to what happened. Like
Yep.
the kid disappeared and they should have dealt with it so many years ago, but instead here they are 25 years later, and there's a certain amount of like her being like him and thinking, I'll see closure this way and maybe we'll find him. And it's like, you what, he's just going to be having lived out there in the moors for 25 years, like found a way to survive or live off the sheep or something. Like what are you hoping for?
She's hoping for the closure of a body. He's thinking that he's going to get
Sure.
his son back,
Yeah.
which but like what you were saying about the mind playing tricks on you, I've often said with Joshua Tree, especially at night, it's
Mm.
a hallucinogenic landscape. You don't have to be on anything, and it can mess with you a little bit. And especially here and in the dark, it's that wide open, unbroken. It like it just the environment just becomes like a Rorschach. So your mind throws things at the nothing, and
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
really do a good job. And I'd like to say also, so Sophia Laporta is Claire, and David Edward Robertson is Bill. And I feel like they give such really fantastic, like resolute performances. They occupy the exact emotional space that they need to, and it's post trauma, but they're both coming at it in a totally different way, like you just
Yeah.
said. And then Elizabeth Dormer Phillips is Eleanor, and Mark Peachy is Alex, and so they're it's like two people who have less than conventional ways to possibly find somebody. We'll just leave it at that. And everybody was just absolutely outstanding, and it's
Yeah.
they also do a really good job. Like the beginning when he disappears and Claire is a child with her friend, with Danny, right? They do a really good job of like, I felt the trauma, not on the level the characters would obviously, but like the way that it's very fast and concise, but it's like, oh fuck, like holy shit. So it stays with you, like it just kind of stops and then rolls into the present, and you still kind of feel that churning, even like in your
Yeah.
own emotional space. And I feel like that's no small feat. So man, I hope I hope this gets some kind of a theatrical release, because I will drive a distance to see this movie on a big screen. I mean, it would be amazing on a big screen.
I would imagine, I mean, it's hard to say. I imagine that just based on the content, that if it does get a theatrical release here in the States, that for those of you living in like places like New York, Los Angeles, I live in LA, that it's probably the kind of thing that you're going to have to drive to like a Lemley or something like that.
Yeah,
Like that's where I saw Ennis Men. Like I don't think there was anywhere else besides like the Lemley or like Alamo Draft House that was showing it. But those are really cool theaters to go see stuff in. But it is probably going to be more of like an art house thing. But it's still, yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it. Go
it's
out and see
worth it.
it. Go support this kind of stuff so that it keeps getting made. Because
Amen.
otherwise, we have cinemas filled with tarot, which I hear is fun. I'm not knocking. I hear is fun, but I'm just
Uh, Yeah, I
If I
don't.
have the choice between like one tarot getting made or three like where when evil lurks, Ennisman and the Moor, I'll take those
Oh yeah,
three. I will take those three all
yeah,
day. I don't care if it disappoints the larger audience, but I want that,
yeah.
you know? So,
If I want fun, I'll throw on Dream Warriors. I mean, no offense to the people that made tarot. Missy had a good time with it. Not interested. But yeah,
I
so
gotcha.
that's Chris Cronin's The More, and I'll try to, I'll try to keep abreast of when and where it's going to get a release and let people
Yes.
know. And until then, I'm Sean,
I'm Ray.
and stay off the moors.
A pandemic of violence floods the streets of major cities as cases of the media-dubbed murder virus, MV20 soar, causing those infected to go on killing sprees. Caught in the middle, police detective Angela Miller finds her only trustworthy ally in the self-proclaimed psychic PI, Gerald Henry. As the two try to navigate the violence, they are drawn into New Age guru Abramelin Harvest's plot to heal the planet. Harvest's missive?
The world is sick, and humanity is the infection.
The cure? Murder. From the twisted mind of Sean C. Baker, author of A Collection of Desires and Shadowplay Book 1, Kim and Jesse, comes his most vicious novel yet, Murder